All right, good morning. We're ready to call the board meeting to order. It's Wednesday, June 18th, and the time is 10:03 a.m. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Good morning, everyone. Chairman Gaines.
Present.
Vice Chair Lieber. Here. Member Vasquez.
Present.
Member Schaefer.
Present.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Present.
Wonderful. A quorum is present, and the board meeting is called to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Deputy Controller Emron, if you could start us, that'd be great.
Here we go, everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now it's an opportunity for opening remarks. Members, do you have any opening remarks? And we'll start with Member Vasquez.
Thank you, Chair Gaines, and I know we're going to share this one together, so I'll start it and I'll let you finish it. Sure. I'd like to, first of all, highlight the observance happening this month with our Chair Gaines, who will also be mentioning J.J. Spahn winning the 125th U.S. Open last weekend. Everyone said that playing in a driving rain made it extremely punishing course, but Spahn was like a man of steel. J.J. was born and raised in San Dimas in San Gabriel Valley. His mother was an avid golfer, and his father loved the game so much he bought him his first golf clubs at the age of 3. J.J. is now 34 and is a strong family man. Right after his win, he hugged his wife, Melody, and their 2 daughters, who joined him when he signed the winning scorecard. Congratulations to Mr. Spahn, and he was definitely a very underdog here. But let me move on to our LA and Los Angeles. You're probably reading and seeing so much about the protests going on. I just wanted to extend my utmost sympathy to all those who were harmed in any way by events that were sparked by a series of federal immigration raids, resulting protests, clashes, and unrest in my district. I was present at some of these events and saw it firsthand, the impact on our community. While I condemn all the violence of all forms, I'm concerned for those who have injured or have been injured or traumatized, especially to the importance of the important immigrant families and businesses who may be suffering. Though all laws must be observed, I'm committed to ensuring that the dignity of human beings is protected regardless of their status or circumstances. And it's kind of ironic, as we're hearing from our federal government, that possibly threatening, federal funding. At the end of the day, when you look at what we generate in California, being the 4th largest economy in the world, we give more than we receive back. And I think he needs to be careful with that, because at the end of the day, if we withhold, we come out ahead. But we'll see what happens. But I was happy to hear that yesterday, our mayor in LA, Karen Bass, lifted the week-long curfew for the downtown Los Angeles, because I know a lot of the small businesses were really hurting and suffering because of that. So I'm hoping things will start bouncing back as that moves forward. And consequently, June is the Immigrant Heritage Month, highlighting the significant impact of immigrants have made in shaping American culture, the economy, and society. And Los Angeles, my county, my district, is home to 10 million residents. Over 1/3 of those folks are immigrants, including myself, making it almost impossible not to address the cultural diversity that we have in LA County. And last, I just wanted to also recognize Juneteenth. Celebrating this was also happening this month. Technically, it's this Thursday, but I know this weekend there was a lot of events. We had one in my district that I participated in, and it was very well attended. So hopefully you can get out. If you haven't this weekend, I know Thursday there's going to be several events going on as well. Because of all, that pretty much is a celebration at the end of slavery in our nation, and kind of a time to, reflect on what went on back in those days and the value of those people and our groups throughout the nation, pretty much. With that, let me send it back to our Chair Gaines.
Yeah, thank you very much, Member Vasquez and Vice Chair Lieber. Comments?
If I might go last, prefer
Okay.
that for the overall comedy and rhythm. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Member Schaefer, would you like to make some comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I always have a birthday to share. Today is the 83rd birthday of Paul McCartney, who, of course, is an icon and the surviving Beatle. And my son works with him at Coachella Music Festival. I never met the man, but we all are much better off for him having shared our lives. I also am appalled at what's gone on in my district with Senator Padilla being abused by the president's secretary of whatever, Christine Noem. I'm just hoping that cooler heads will prevail. I don't think any of us should be disrespected when we want to question what's going on. I think that's a duty that we have. And finally, I want to mention I have a great sadness with CalPERS, who I've always thought were very responsive. Their website says they have 5-day response time if we have a question of them, because we're all employees. There are 237,000 of us that are employees of the state government. I'm anxious to buy into my first 5 years retirement, so when I hit that 5-year mark in January of 2024, I immediately filed with them. And I've been keeping up with them monthly since January of 2024. It's 16 months. And Dr. Pedersen and myself, one of us has every month been contacting saying, have you got an amount yet? Is it 5,000 or 50,000? We'd just like to know. And they just say, we're working on it, we're working on it. I'm going to ask the state auditor to audit what's going on with the CalPERS, because if there are a number of other employees of the California government that are getting month-to-month treatment when they say 5 days on their website, that's something we should all be concerned about. I talked to the lady this morning before I came into the meeting, and she said, Mr. Schaefer, it takes 60 days to respond to a request for buy-in. I said, well, I've had 16 months because I did it starting in January of last year. She said, no, you made your application, the latest one is April 18th. And I said, well, surprise, April 18th, May 18th, June 18th, today is the 60th day. I said, I'm entitled to it today. She said, well, they mail it out to you. I don't have that information. I just want you to know that I have met the bureaucracy, and it is us, and I'm going to try to make it a little more consumer friendly. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. And Deputy Controller Emran?
Thank you, Chair Gaines, members of the board, the Executive Director, members of the public. Good to be with you all for the first meeting of the summer. I want to start with an introduction. We have a new team member joining us for the summer. Her name is Audrey Gonanto. She was born in San Ramon, California, grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia, and moved back to the Bay Area at 15 to attend community college. She transferred last fall to UC San Diego as a mathematics and economic major, and in her spare time, she likes to golf, read a book by the pool, or explore new coffee shops with friends. She's here joining us, and she will be around for the summer. Thank you, Audrey, for being with us here today. And then lastly, on a more somber note, I'm going to try to intertwine my remarks of Gun Violence Awareness Month with what happened in Minnesota, where 2 state lawmakers were shot. One was assassinated, and one was a politically fueled violence. And for the record, I want to say their names: Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and John Hoffman and Yvette, who are injured and seriously in the hospital fighting for their lives. I really believe in this life of public service as we all sit here trying to help each other and help the state of California and the residents that we all love and serve, that political fueled violence has no place in America. We are a democratic society. We're meant to love each other and uplift each other. And if we have disagreements, to be civil about it and speak through our voices, the power of our voices, to have that discourse like we do here on this Board of Equalization, and to not walk out of this meeting in fear of our lives. And I think it's a very, very sad day in America where we have people being targeted and assassinated just for speaking up about the causes and things they believe in. And I just want to shout that out and send my love to the people of Minnesota. It's a wonderful, wonderful state. I've got to visit it one time, to the governor, to the entire Minnesota state legislature too. Love from California, we are with you, and we will continue to speak out against any type of hate and violence and bigotry that comes into America. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Vice Chair Lieber?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm very heartened to hear all the comments from my colleagues, and they're all so well taken. And I have a good note to put in that it is Pride Month, something that's very, very important to Californians. And I think in California, our diversity is our strength, and that's a key part of our diversity. So I want to congratulate everyone who's working on Pride festivities throughout California. And I wanted to speak just for a couple minutes about some of the economic concerns that we have going forward. For the past several months, I've used my opening comments to talk about our obligation as elected officials to understand the impacts on Californians of federal policies. And in particular, I've focused on how various cuts and arbitrary dismissals of civil servants have created a potential need to backfill these federal cuts with California revenues at a time when our revenues are in short supply. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the cuts that have occurred just since our last meeting, and description of the possible impact on California of the federal budget legislation that's currently being considered by Congress. And I would like to focus on California's agricultural properties and the workers who support this vital sector of our economy. This is a sector that has helped make California the fourth largest economy in the world, something that's definitely a pride point for each of us. And in California, roughly 40 million acres, 40% of California's land is used for agriculture. California is the top producer of agricultural products in the United States and the world's fifth largest producer. Over $59 billion in agricultural sales from California are made each year. Fruit, tree nuts, berries are all labor-intensive farming that make up over $23 billion of the state's agricultural sales. And California produces 75% of the United States fruit and nuts. 88% of all strawberries come from California, 90% of all lemons, 90 to 95% of all avocados, and 94% of wine grapes used in America. And a 2023 study found that over 800,000 Latino agricultural workers are employed in California every year, of whom approximately 400,000 are estimated to be undocumented. It is in this context that I would like to comment on reports of federal immigration agents chasing farm workers in the fields in Oxnard in Ventura County. And for all of our members that have had the chance to go out into the fields and to meet with our farm workers, we know that they get to work at about 3 or 4 in the morning and work despite all the conditions. It's frequently extremely foggy and cold in Ventura County. And we all saw the spectacle over the past week of agents running after and throwing to the ground are vitally needed workers. As a result of the raids, more than 30 agricultural workers were detained by ICE in Ventura County. And again, Oxnard is known for its strawberry and lima bean production. According to the Ventura County Agricultural Commissioner's Office, Ventura County grows over $2.1 billion in agricultural products each year. It is impossible for them to do that without the labor of immigrant workers. And similar ICE raids have been reported in other farms in California, including Santa Maria and Santa Barbara County. Our critical agricultural economy is being disrupted massively by federal actions. And this war on workers will have an inevitable consequence for our agricultural properties and for food production and food costs for consumers. There's fear in families throughout our state, particularly in families that are critical to the success of California's $59 billion agricultural industry. And this is but one piece of a larger story of federal actions that are impacting California and disrupting the peace, security, dignity, and tranquility of daily life in the Golden State. In addition to the human cost of these events, there will also be a revenue consequence, not just for agriculture, but for our entire economy. As property tax administrators, we need to be aware of these facts and plan accordingly. And I would point my fellow board members to a study that has just come out this morning from the Bay Area Council that indicated that mass deportations cost California's economy $275 billion in terms of our GDP for our state. And that construction, agricultural, and occupational services are projected to have a $23 billion loss in tax revenues, and that the economies in San Joaquin Valley, the Bay Area, the Inland Empire, and Los Angeles are projected to take the largest economic hits. So as was mentioned by another board member earlier, we are a net donor state. So beyond what happens in terms of the California economy, it also lessens our ability to provide funds to the federal government that they can then provide to other states that don't have the vibrant economy that California does. And there will definitely be a cost for the states projected if the current budget bill passes, with the knowledge that it is projected to add $3 trillion to our national debt. So that's a commitment that would be made on behalf of Congress to saddle the American people with an additional $3 trillion in debt when there are a lesser number of families right now that can afford to service their own family debt and to provide for their own families' needs. So we are definitely in very perilous time in California, and I know it's a pride point for each of us that we now have the fourth largest economy in the world here in California. But if we are not more fiscally responsible, we will not be able to hold on to that status for long. So just a note of concern and a framing that I hope will influence our discussions going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Vice Chair. And yeah, in regards to these issues, my hope and prayer would be that civility would prevail. We are going through tough times here in California and across the nation. The immigration issue is tough. I think, you know, in my opinion, many of these issues were created by the last administration with a flooding of people coming across our borders for which we had no background or information about. So that increases risk from a crime perspective. And so my hope would be that we could make sure that we have a more rational system for immigration in America so that we just know who's coming in. And obviously, immigration is so important to California especially, but also for the nation. And we are a nation of immigrants. And so I hope that peace would prevail. I know it's been tough in LA, lots of challenges, and cities across the country. Getting back to some other issues, I don't want to discount Juneteenth. It's coming up tomorrow, and how valuable that was in terms of notification that the Civil War was over. That was greatly delayed because I think partly because of communication at that time. People just didn't know in certain parts of the country. So we want to make sure that we recognize that, and that is a celebration. Obviously, freedom is a celebration. And then finally, just the wildfire threat in California doesn't go away. And I was reminded by that in El Dorado County. We had 2 fires in the last week, and they were both put out fairly quickly. I was impressed with what CAL FIRE is doing. They've got that fleet of aircraft, and in both cases, those airplanes were flying over my house in different communities a couple miles from me. But impressive that they're doing such a great job, but it's just the beginning of that wildfire season. And then finally, in terms of this recognition of J.J. Spahn from Member Vasquez's district, I just had to comment on it because I was so impressed with, you know, some exciting things happen in life, but it's really fun when you can witness it even on TV when it comes to sports. And so I just wanted to congratulate him. I was just recently told that he's a type 1 diabetic. My daughter's type 1 diabetic, and I know the struggles she goes through just for everyday living, but for someone to be at that caliber of golf, playing on one of the most important, I mean, we're talking the US Open, for which he had a victory, struggling through challenging weather conditions. All the other leaders were just making mistakes right and left, and JJ just kept nice and grounded, and just his drives were, those last few holes, his drives were perfect. The very last putt was a 64-foot putt. It's like mind-boggling. So it was a bit of hope and light in some challenging times, and so it was just a great moment to witness that, and the fact that he's a Californian is just awesome. He was thinking of actually quitting the game because he'd never won a major, so good for him, and congratulations. Okay, are we ready to move forward? Okay, Ms. Cicchetti, can you please call our first order of business?
Good morning again. Our first order of business is our safety and informational announcements. First, I want to remind the audience to silence their cell phones and other wireless devices. Our safety announcement. In the auditorium, the exits are in the front on each side of the stage, and other exits are at the rear. Please take a moment to find the exit sign and location closest to you in the event of an emergency. Our informational announcement. The board meeting will be live streamed to the public, posted on the BOE website. Therefore, we ask all speakers in the auditorium, on the AT&T telephone line, or by teleconference to state their names before speaking for the record. We ask that you speak slowly and clearly. Note that public comments are taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment on matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice. Follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. If you intend to make a public comment today using the AT&T moderator, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of the agenda item you wish to comment on. We recommend this as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes our safety and informational announcements for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First item of the day is item 1, public comment on matters not on the agenda. So we have anybody here that wants to speak on something not on the agenda? Okay, we'll go now to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda. Public comment.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you have a public comment, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And at this time, no one has queued up.
Thank you, moderator. Hearing no comments, we'll move on to the next item. We're now moving to the consent agenda. Item 2, board meeting minutes. And I'd like to request the board adoption of the May 28th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Members, would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I would so move, but I have some comments.
Okay. We got a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, all right. And now we have a comment by Member Schaefer.
Chair, I noticed there are some very petty amounts that we're being asked to approve. Would you believe $2,700, $2,800? And there are also many of them that are $100 million or more. I was wondering if we've ever thought of giving our executive director or one of our chiefs the jurisdiction to approve anything under $1 million. I think $1 million really ought to be the threshold to get onto our docket here.
Okay. So we'll have Mr. Moon comment with regards to that. Thank you.
Good morning. Richard Moon, Chief Counsel. I believe Mr. Schaefer is referring to the value setting that was done, and that's statutorily required to be done by the board by a certain time each year. And so if the board had wanted sort of some other system to do that, that would take a statutory change. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's go to public comment. No written items, correct, on this? And so we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding item 2, board meeting minutes.
Thank you. And if you'd like to make a comment, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And this is for item 2. And no one is in queue.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Members, any further discussion? Okay, so Member Schaefer and has made a motion to approve the 2028, May 28, 2025 board meeting minutes with Member Vasquez seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, members. All right, the following item is Chief Counsel Matters. Item number 3, Regulation, Property Tax Rule 140, Section 100 change. And Mr. Lujan is presenting this item.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Gaines and honorable members of the board. My name is David Lujan from the Legal Department. Today, for the board's consideration, we are recommending that the board adopt proposed Section 100 or non-substantive changes to 4 of our property tax rules. We will address each of these rulemakings one at a time, starting with Rule 140, which covers welfare exemption requirements for low-income housing properties. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 214 requires low-income housing rental properties to be financed with certain types of government financing to qualify for exemption. This statute was amended in 2023 to include qualified 501c3 bonds as a qualifying type of government financing. Currently, Property Tax Rules, Subdivision A2, which lists the different forms of government financing allowed under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 214, does not include qualified 501c3 bonds. Today's proposed amendments adds qualified 501c3 bonds to the rule and then renumbers the remaining items listed. The proposed amendments here make the rule consistent with current law and otherwise do not make any substantive updates or changes to the rule. Therefore, if the board adopts this proposed amendment, staff will file the rulemaking package directly with OAL to complete the change through what is referred to as a Section 100 change. Accordingly, we recommend and request that the board vote to adopt the proposed amendments to Property Tax Rule 140. I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Members, any questions? I've got one if I could. I'm trying to, can you maybe give me an example of the practical effect of this change by including qualified 501c3 bonds?
Yeah, so 501c3 bonds are basically municipal financing arrangements. And by including them, the legislature was trying to create parity among similarly financed developments and to also improve access to the welfare property exemption for affordable housing. So it's another avenue through which financing could be taken care of for capital investments such as affordable housing complexes.
Okay, so it's should help in terms of financing them?
Yeah,
Affordable
so
housing?
the theory is it'll help create more affordable housing. Absolutely.
Okay, and could it help in other ways for nonprofits?
I'm not sure. It's really narrow for affordable housing
Okay,
in specific.
okay, it was
yeah.
designed for affordable housing.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
correct.
very good, thank you. All right, members, would anyone like to make a motion on this? Okay, we got, all right. Great, thank you. Suggestion motion is to approve the staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for Property Tax Rule 140. We have the motion and the second. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line that would like to comment on item 3, regulation 140?
Thank you. If you have a comment on item 3, please press 1, then 0. Again, that is 1, then 0. And at this time, we have no one that has queued up.
Great, thank you, moderator. And there's no public written comments, correct? Just to clarify that. Great, thank you. Any questions or discussion, members? Okay, we have Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve the staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for Property Rule 140 with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, members. We'll now move to item number 4, Property Tax Rule 5334, Section 100 change. And again, Mr. Lujan is presenting this item.
Thank you, Chairman Gaines, honorable members of the board. For the
Thank you.
record, my name is David Lujan from the Legal Department. The next rulemaking we recommend for the board's consideration are proposed Section 100 changes to Property Tax Rule for Tax Appeal 5334, which covers the time for filing of petitions within the context of the Property Tax Sampling Program. Currently, the rule states that field reviews are conducted by the County Assessed Properties Division. However, this is no longer accurate and needs to be updated to state that field reviews are conducted by the Assessment Practices Survey Division. Additionally, the rule states that a final notice of findings will be mailed to the relevant county assessor by the Chief Deputy Director of the Property and Special Tax Department. However, the title of the mailing party is no longer accurate and needs to be updated to Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. Today's proposed amendments to Rule 5334 update and revise the rule to accurately reference the name of the division that conducts assessment practices surveys and accurately refer to the position that mails the final notice of sample findings to the county assessor, respectively. Again, these are not substantive updates or changes to the rule. Therefore, if the board adopts these proposed amendments, staff will file the rulemaking package directly with OAL to complete the changes as Section 100 changes. Accordingly, we recommend and request that the board vote to adopt the proposed amendments to Property Tax Rule for Tax Appeals 5334. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, members, any questions of Mr. Lujan? Yeah, Mr. Schaefer.
That's correct. For any rulemaking that the agency conducts, for it to be valid, the board must vote on, must approve that rulemaking. It's in the statute, yeah.
Any other questions? How about a motion?
Move staff adapt, I guess, to move the proposed amendments recommended by the staff.
Okay. Excellent. So we have a first and a second to approve staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for Property Tax Rule 5334. And I'm assuming we do not have any written comments. Is that correct? Okay. And the AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And if you'd like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And we have no one in queue.
Okay, thank you. Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for Property Tax Rule 5334, with Member Schaefer seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to item 5, Property Tax Rule 642.520, Section 100 change. And Mr. Lujan is presenting this item too.
Thank you, Chairman Gaines. For the
you.
record, my name is David Lujan from the Legal Department. The next rulemaking we recommend for the board's consideration are proposed Section 100 changes to Property Tax Rule 462.520, which covers exclusion from change in ownership, intergenerational transfers. Currently, Rule 462.520 provides definitions for the terms accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit by reference to definitions found in 2 separate government code sections. However, in 2024, the legislature reorganized various provisions of the government code related to accessory dwelling units and relocated the pertinent definitions for these terms to Section 66313 of the government code. Today's proposed amendments updates the references to the statutory definitions of accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit to the appropriate subdivisions of Government Code Section 66313. As this is not a substantive update to the change to the rule, if the board adopts this proposed amendment, staff will file the rulemaking package with OAL as a Section 100 change. Accordingly, we recommend and request that the board vote to adopt the proposed amendment to Property Tax Rule 462520. Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions on this? Yes, Member Schaefer.
Mr. Lujan, I'm not sure what a junior accessory dwelling unit is. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, so a junior accessory dwelling unit is like an ADU. However, it can be no more than 500 square feet in size. So I think it has the same parameters as an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, but it's smaller.
Thank you.
Yeah. I learned something. That's great. Thank you. Now, I'm just curious in terms of, because there's two interesting aspects here, right? We're dealing with ADUs and Prop 19 and intergenerational transfer. So how is this being treated through Prop 19?
Well,
So if you had a home with an ADU and it was being passed down to the next generation, how would it be treated?
yeah, so the issue is whether the ADU is considered part of the property, the home, the domicile. And as long as the ADU is not separately alienable from the home, it would be included.
Okay.
So in terms of passing on property, you'd get the benefit of passing on not only the home, but the ADU as well.
Okay, so if, let's say they split the lot and or let's say they built the ADU and then they split the lot, would they be separated? Would they be treated separately in an intergenerational?
They could be. I think it depends on what's called the appraisal unit and how those kinds of things would be normally transferred. But the separation of a lot sounds, yeah, that would cause problems.
Okay, so it would lose its homeowner's exemption, wouldn't it, the ADU? Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. So if you want, probably makes sense to keep those together if you're going through this, right? As a family, you can rent that unit out. Could you have another family member live there?
I don't think there's restrictions on who's in the ADU. I think it's really
Yeah.
about the appraisal unit, making sure that yes.
Would it increase the exemption?
What,
Because it's divided, isn't it divided by the number of surviving children?
yeah, please.
Okay. What this new, all we're doing is we're clarifying basically a reference to what defines an ADU and what isn't an ADU. So our amendment to the property tax rule only just follows what has been changed in statute. Your question as to if you split the parcel and separate the ADU, with that split, typically, Mr. Lujan is right, the appraisal unit then would probably be two. And typically, if you split it, then it's alienable. You can actually sell that separately. If you can, then when you transfer your value to one of your eligible transferees, that separate unit won't get that treatment.
Yes, okay.
So, and
So if you had a question.
Yes.
If you had a house with an ADU.
right.
And you had two surviving children after the parents passed away.
Mhm.
Could you have one child live in the ADU and then another in the home and get the full exemption?
If both, that's an interesting question. In general, if the unit is not alienable, the ADU, you can't sell it separately from the home.
Right.
The base year transfer, as long as it's from an eligible transferor to eligible transferee, a parent to a child, then they're able, and at least one child lives in that home, they're able to keep the base year value of the transferor.
If there's more than one children and
You
one
still
child
can.
lives in it, you still get the full
Yes,
exemption?
you can.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I was
Okay.
going down a rabbit hole. I apologize to my colleagues. So, thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Okay. All right, so any other questions on this? I don't see any. Okay, and do we have a motion and a second on this item?
So moved.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Wonderful. And any written comments? None. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone's on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment on this item. Item 5, property tax rule.
Thank you. Thank you. If you have a comment for item number 5, please press 1, then 0. And at this time, there's no one in queue.
All right, thank you, moderator. If there's no further discussion, Vice Chair Lieber has made a motion to approve staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for property tax rule 462.250, with member Schaefer providing the second. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, members. Item 6, property tax rule 462.540, section 100 change. Mr. Lujan is presenting again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Gaines, honorable members of the board. For the record, my name is David Lujan, and this is the final rulemaking recommended for the board's consideration today. These are proposed Section 100 changes to Property Tax Rule 462540, which covers change in ownership base year value transfers. Currently, Rule 462540 provides definitions to accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit, and by reference to definitions found in the government code. However, in 2024, legislature reorganized those provisions and relocated the pertinent definitions to 66313 of the government code. Today's proposed amendments update the references to the statutory definitions to the appropriate subdivisions of government code section 66313. Again, as this is not a substantive update or change to the rule, if the board adopts this proposed amendment, we will file the rulemaking package directly with OAL on what is referred to as Section 100 change. Accordingly, we recommend and request that the board vote to adopt the proposed amendments to Property Tax Rule 462540.
So moved.
Wonderful. That's great. So we have a motion, and do we have a second? Okay. Great, thank you. And this is just an update because of a statute that passed through the legislature.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So we have a first and a second. Do we have any written comments? No. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment on item 6.
And if you would like to make a comment on item 6, please press 1, then 0. And at this time, there's no one in queue.
All right, thank you, moderator. Seeing no questions or further discussion, Member Schaefer has made a motion to approve staff request to proceed with Section 100 changes for Property Tax Rule 462.540, with Member Vasquez seconding. And Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, members. Now going to move to the next item, which is board member matters. Item number 7, legislative board workshop proposal. Great, thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So this is item 7, Legislative Board Workshop Proposal. And it's right and proper for the board and individual board members to evaluate and support or oppose legislation. I know, like my fellow board members, that we want to do that in a way that best serves the public, the board, and the board staff. As such, during our discussion, I'd like to try to understand how the board work group would best be organized and operate. And as you recall, Controller Cohen and I had discussed this, and she wanted to make sure that we brought this forward and that we added some structure to how we analyze a bill and how it comes to the Board of Equalization to either provide support for as a board, and even in those cases, individuals could decide not to support, and you might end up still with a majority of this board that would support. And of course, we can always support bills on our own as individuals. And through a lot of this discussion with staff and just trying to figure it out, we've got a couple of different aspects to this. Now, we have bills that move through that are naturally connected to our constitutional duties as the Board of Equalization. And I think those are pretty self-evident and pretty clear. And those are tracked by Ted Angelo, and he does a great job doing that for us. But we also have another segment of legislation that moves through that is related to our duties as the Board of Equalization, but it may not be as clear-cut. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to see what we can focus on. And I know, Vice Chair Lieber, you've presented, a letter to you presented it actually to the board, and our Executive Director, Stowers, has reviewed it. And I thought there were some good ideas there in terms of, do we have an analysis on the bill? What is the fiscal impact? And some really well laid out steps. And so I'd just like to open this discussion. What do you think it should look like as we set up how to handle legislative bills moving over to the BOE in terms of support? And the concept, or one concept, is that we create a subcommittee. Now, that would be just 2 members of the 5, and we'd have to use our own support staff to do that. And those bills could be reviewed and then presented to the full board. But with that also comes the timing issue, because you're going to have a subcommittee meeting that then is going to take a look at these, and then you have to make sure it gets on the agenda for the full board. And so we've got to figure out how that all works, because I think one of our fears is that we would support a bill, an amendment we'd taken, maybe it was a gut amend, and we're supporting something totally different, and yet we only meet on a monthly basis, and so that could present its own problems. So I'm open to ideas in terms of how we proceed, and just like to hear your comments, and let's have a discussion. And we'll start with Vice Chair Lieber, and then we'll go to you, Member Schaefer.
Thank you.
And
And
then you,
as
Mr. Vasquez.
you indicated in your comments, Mr. Chair, we did recently approve a set of guidelines that are now a new part of our governance policies to require that there be germaneness, and that we have that the individual member who's seeking support of the bill provides a fiscal analysis, if there is one available, and that we would not consider spot bills that are those that are probably the most likely to be used as a vehicle for a gut amend. And I'd like to suggest that we pursue a work group rather than a committee. We don't have committees here in terms of the board. And as you know, Mr. Chair, from being in the legislature, often bills are moving and are subject to a time pressure. And I'd like to pursue a work group structure so that all members have the ability to comment on legislation and to seek the full board support. I know that what's being proposed, or my understanding of what's being proposed, is that individual members would still have the right to bring forward a piece of legislation that fits within the rubric of our new governance policy. But I think parceling something out to a committee, or the creation of committees, which we don't have as a structure currently within the BOE, would pose unnecessary delays in a system that's very time-driven and deadline-driven.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Member Vasquez?
Yes, first of all, I just wanted to thank Chairman Gaines and Controller Cohen for looking for ways to formalize, for us to consider legislation in this legislative matters moving forward. And I handed out a memo that I wasn't able to share with everybody because of Bagley King, but so I'll kind of walk you through it and see what, if any, feedback we get from the body here today. And let me just start with, having complete understanding of legislative issues and supporting, opposing, or suggesting amendments is part of our responsibility as elected officials. Whether it is a hearing directly from legislators deliberating on what to support or oppose, suggesting amendments, initiating our own proposals, or discussing the need for regulations or guidance for pending legislation, we all need to be fully engaged. Based on the discussion last month, I believe the question is how we can best incorporate the concept into our existing governance structure with a few changes. I agree with Chairman Gaines on this, that at this time, the best structure to all this might be a work group, but with a few changes so that it is tailored specifically to the legislative process. Essentially, it needs to be like a standing committee that is a standing work group, with the work group chair and vice chair taking the lead, preparing the minutes, keeping the board and the public fully informed. With that, I am proposing 4 procedural changes that could help this standing work group be most effective and efficient. And I'll start with number 1. It should be named differently than other work groups. Even though it's a work group, we could give it a DBA as a standing committee, because the standing committee is free to convene at each monthly meeting as needed and as determined by the work group chair and vice chair without the need to seek prior board approval. Number 2, each board member should be allowed to submit any legislative agenda items to the executive director for consideration by the work group chair so that every member is involved. This also avoids the Bagley King open meeting issues. Third, the work group chair should be allowed to waive the requirement of a full report if appropriate, and if there is a sufficient public record in the minutes of each work group. And number 4, as a standing committee, the election of the work group chair and vice chair should be decided by the full board on an annual or biannual basis, possibly at the December board meeting. And finally, number 5, the topics of the work group consideration should be as extensive as possible and should include A, all legislation-related issues, inquiries, and research. B, a board legislative plan. C, pass present and future bills. D, initiation of legislative concepts or proposals. And E, discussion of implementation of proposed or enacted legislation. With that, Chair Gaines, I would like to place this proposal in a motion for your consideration and discussion as we move forward. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that, you're making a motion?
Yes.
And do we have a second?
A question.
Sure.
So in terms of what you're proposing, it would be a standing work group so that we would not have to request permission in June for a July meeting type of thing. So it would be possible to put it on any agenda. And then if there were not any legislative proposals that were requested, then it would just
There's no need for it.
not be on there for that month. Okay. I would second that.
Wonderful. Great. And I'd like to hear from Member Schaefer and then Deputy Controller Imran.
Before I came to Sacramento, I really never heard of a work group. I've been served on committees, from school days to city council to here. We have committees of the Congress and committees of the House, committees of the Senate. I like the word committee. I'd be happier if you as chair would just appoint people to a committee. When you say work group, I can just see all kinds of new opportunities to work arising. And, we have a lot of opportunities to work as it is. I'm also very impressed with our relationship with Mr. Angelo, who brings all these issues together with us at every single meeting I've sat at. And I wouldn't want to create a group or a study that might detract from our total access to him. Although if there was a committee of two of us meeting with him before the meeting to maybe focus on what position we should take, I have no problem with that. But I'm sort of a student of Jerry Brown, when less is more, and I'm not anxious to expand the bureaucracy here, but I do like the word committee, and if you'll have a committee, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Okay. I actually think this solution answers your question. Yeah, in terms of simplicity. So, yeah, good. Wonderful. Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Chair Gaines. I want to thank the members of the board for having this spirited discussion. So when the controller made this recommendation, she did so from the lens of good governance. She believes that it is time to evolve the board into a more meaningful and intentional governance structure. We have worked hard over the past 7 years rebuilding. She now believes it is time right to begin establishing our committee structure, which is different from our work group structure. The Legislative Committee would become our first committee, with the Secretary of the Board supporting us, very similar to the support provided to the full board. It will allow for more in-depth and proper vetting of the policy issues and associated bills, as well as a thought-out recommendation to the board. The controller believes this would become our first committee, and she has recommendations for additional committees consistent with our constitutional responsibilities. Chairman, the controller would like to work with you and our executive director to create a proposal for the board's future consideration. We have taken very unfortunate and unfounded criticism about the work and value of this board to our constituents. The controller believes moving in this direction is consistent with our governance role and welcomes the opportunity to turn the page on the limited governance structure we have survived under the past 7 years. And that's where the controller stands now. Thank you.
So maybe help me with that a little bit, because we've got a motion and a second with a proposal that I think provides a lot more structure than what we've had historically. And so I'd just like to know, what are the controller's thoughts with regard to this proposal that we're looking at? And then I'd like the executive director weigh in also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my first time looking at this, and I've only had maybe 10, 15 minutes to review it. I'm a little confused here. It says it's a legislative work group, DBA, but it will be under the guise of a legislative standing committee. And I don't know exactly what that means under the board's
Maybe we
governance
could have,
policy.
Mr. Moon, could you help us clarify? Because
So is it a
we've got
work group? Is it
legal
a
issues,
committee?
too, that we have to make sure we're addressing, that we're falling within the right structure
Yeah.
as a board.
Good morning, Richard Moon, Chief Counsel. So as you know, in the past, the board has approved this work group structure that you've been using for a variety of reasons. And one was to make a clean break with, I guess, what we'll call BOE 1.0 because of AB 102. And so this work group committee was designed to be sort of what you might consider a one-off sort of type work group that considers specific individual issues that board members had concern over. So the work group charter and the policy are designed to structure that type of a work group. If the board is now considering a standing work group, I think there should be consideration of additional factors that are not contained within the existing charter. And so some of those issues that the board may want to consider is, for example, who would be the work group chair and vice chair? How would that be? How would that chair be selected? And then what would be sort of the authority and the powers of that chair? And depending on what those authorities and powers are, would that somehow delay the process or make it more difficult for other board members to also have legislation that they were interested in brought before the full board? And so I know this board has sort of historically worked cooperatively and collaboratively, but another consideration is that future boards, we don't know what that will look like. And so the rules that are set up now should be robust enough to cover not just your board, but future boards as well. There are other considerations as well. So the existing work group charter says that the work group will do their work and then bring back the item, including minutes, at the next board meeting. And then at the next board meeting, there could be potential action by the full board. And if this standing committee works that way, that might cause additional delay that you may not have considered or that may not be beneficial to the piece of legislation that you're looking at. And so I think if you're considering a standing work group, I think the charter should be looked at. And then many of these policies and structures sort of thought through and written down. The other sort of vehicle that you've been using to consider legislation is the existing board member matters. This is how legislation has been brought up in the vehicle that's been used. And I think some of the advantages of that is that the action for support could be taken at that same meeting. The vetting of the information, the legislation, is done before being brought to the board by the individual board member that's being interested. So there's some more sort of dexterity and flexibility in terms of putting it on the agenda when it's on the agenda, the speakers perhaps that you want to invite to talk about the legislation. There's also no separate chair of this board member item, so it would only be up to the board chair to decide whether to put it on the publicly noticed agenda or not. And so in that sense, it may also be more conducive to quicker action. And then another sort of item not to overlook is that procedures already exist for this. Ms. Lieber had brought up some procedures to better define what kind of legislation and at what point the legislation could be brought before the board. And those policies already exist, so that change has been made to the governance policy, so that exists already. And you could work within that framework. So those are some things to consider. I guess the final thing that I might say at this point is between the name of committee and work group, I would strongly recommend that you keep it as a work group or a sub-work group. And that's because back when the board voted to go to this work group structure, one of the reasons why the board voted voted to do away with committees is because of 102, AB 102. And so that raised a host of issues. And I think the board was very careful, as your board has been, to not just be careful not to violate AB 102, but also to avoid the appearance of coming anywhere close to violating AB 102. And that nomenclature committee harkens back to a period where the legislature had said the board members at that time could not do certain things. So I think that is also a consideration.
Okay, just to clarify, because Member Vasquez, he's proposing a work group, right?
Yes.
Which we've done in the past, and that's consistent with how we should be operating, at least the way I look at it. He brings up the description of standing committee. Would we have the same flexibility in a work group that was not considered a standing committee?
So part of the issue is that there are no separate rules or consideration for a standing work group in the charter, and so that would have to be built out. Exactly what flexibility you want to build in, what you want that to look like. But I think the alternative is for the legislative items to remain on the board member matters items. And I think, as I look through Mr. Vasquez's letter, I think the same goals could be accomplished with the existing board member matters part of the agenda. So another sort of thing that you may want to consider is what advantages might a standing work group have over what you have already and how you've been working through it already, especially considering that some procedures have already been set for the board member matters.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if maybe we could amend it. Yes, Vice Chair Lieber, and then Member Vasquez.
Thank you for the input, Mr. Moon. And I wonder if we might possibly bring back an item to look at the language in the charter that deals with work groups and see what room there is to work with there. And thank you to staff for, we should all have one of these at our place, to talk about what we've already adopted in terms of the legislation that we consider. And maybe we could have that be a part of our, if we could possibly bring that back in July, if there's room in that agenda, to talk about, to review the structure of what we have in the charter, and also to more fully consider what we've already just adopted in terms of our own governance policy last month, if that would be acceptable to folks.
I'm good with that. I was just trying to address the issue that was raised
Yes.
about committees and didn't want to get caught up with what Mr. Moon was talking about specifically, us getting caught up in this whole AB 102 situation. That's why I was looking at it, calling it basically a work group, and that we would all be involved, because it sounds like there's interest from more than 2 members on this board, which then you get into the whole Bailey King if you were to set up a separate, whether it's a committee or a work group.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of thought of it as a work group as a whole.
Sure.
So we all get to participate and move whatever item it is, or to stay on top of this legislation. And the other issue I think Member Schaefer brought up is that, working through a committee with Ted, when I brought this thing up before Ted, and actually our executive director was part of that discussion, I got in a kind of a pickle, because technically we can't be directing her staff. We can only direct the executive director.
That's right.
That's why I was trying to avoid that as well.
Yes, yep.
And I thought this, would be something that we would take responsibility for.
Right.
One, on the minutes, and everything, reports and everything else that comes out of it, letters and everything that would be generated would be done by the work group as a whole. That's all.
Yes, wonderful. And then,
Thank
Vice
you,
Chair
Mr.
Lieber.
Chair. And I'd like to suggest when we bring it back next month that we consider a time limit, say through the end of 2026, to consider a work group of, a standing work group. so that we're going to have brand-new board members after that point in time. And if we have a structure that maybe isn't performing as well as we would like, it would be good to give them a fresh slate to look at things. And so if we could bring that back in July, I think that would be a good move. Thank you.
I agree. Yeah, Deputy Controller.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for the spirited discussion. So my understanding, Mr. Moon, is that it is now violation, is not against the law to bring a committee, a legislative committee to the board. So my recommendation for the next month is to also have two proposals. One, what a legislative work group will look like, and also one, what a legislative committee looks like. And I appreciate Mr. Vasquez and his staff for working on this. I believe we're all close to proposal, but to see both, because this is big and this is going to change the board of the direction in the future. And we've been working hard the past 2-3 years on legislation, and we've been having legislators come, thanks to our board members. We've been sponsoring bills, we've been supporting bills. So I just want to see that nobody's going to be X'd out of this process, and that we have Ted Angelo here and we can use his resources and his support and yours as well. So if we can look at both a work group and how that structure looks like, and also a committee. And Mr. Vasquez, I'm happy to work with you and the chair on bringing this forward, because I think we're all stronger together. Thank you.
Okay, now that raises a question, though, in terms of if we do have a separate standing committee that isn't part of the full board, do we have access to Mr. Angelo on bill analysis? I don't think we do, and then that puts it back on us, and it's like, I don't want to do a bill analysis. I have no expertise, and so I like the structure that's been included here by Vice Chair Lieber, because at least we have a lot more structure than we did 6 months ago or 4 months ago. So I think that's a good building block, and I'm open to discussing two pathways and taking a look at those and moving forward at our next meeting. I don't have a problem with that, but I want to know where the labor
Let me,
is going to come from to kind of help us out with this, the expertise.
yes, I understand your concern, sir, and I understand what you're saying, Deputy Imran. Let me get some clarification, and then I can get an understanding of what the assignment is. Member Vasquez, when you talked about a standing legislative work group, you did put in the word committee. And when you're saying committee, who do you see as the committee members? The board members? Okay, so you're not looking to involve agency staff? No. Okay, I just want to be clear, because that was the problem in the past. And then, Ms. Lieber, you're saying a standing legislative work group, or Mr. Moon brought up, just continue as we're currently doing, but have it as a board member matter legislative. I think maybe I'm jumping ahead. It may be three possible ways to do this.
If I could clarify, if we're posting different options, I would love to have the current process, which I believe does work the best, with the changes to our governance policy as a part of that. I'm not interested in the clunkiness of a committee. So my first choice would be to leave the process as it is, where we're each open to bringing up bills that meet the needs of our constituents. And knowing that we have this additional
Yes.
precautions to the governance policy that
Right.
we have already adopted, that I think solve the problem that was coming up. Then my second choice would be a standing work group that is only through the end of 2026. And then, a very distant third would be to have a committee. I don't think that offers us any benefit, but it does raise complications, questions. Well, if we're a committee, why can't we use staff resources, AB 102, et cetera? And then we continue to be mired in that situation. And I think we've had a lot of discussion on the dais this year about what's the difference between the bills that we take a position on and those that the agency is taking a position on. And when will bills be tracked or not be tracked? And I think the current process with the new additions to the governance policy are probably the best for allowing us to move without a lot of constraints that are not well taken, that impact our effectiveness and our timeliness, which is critically important with legislation. But I would be more than willing to have an item to look at our charter and to really digest the changes that we've already made to the governance policy next month. And I don't know if we need a motion to refer that.
Would you like a motion?
You already have a motion on the floor, so you might need to take care of that motion. And then for this one, I would like to have a motion because I want to make sure that the desires of all members are being heard and I understand the assignment.
Okay, just a thought, because we have a motion and a second. My thinking was maybe we could adjust that motion for a review of the proposal, and then hopefully we could get support, and that we would move forward with the deputy controller's proposal.
Yes, and just to be clear, Mr. Chairman,
And then your
it will be a legislative committee like BOE 1.0.
It would be?
I want to at least analyze and look at it, and
Okay.
in the guise of AB 102, because my understanding is that was when the board was working at a very efficient and rapid pace, and we were all working in unison together. So I just want to at least take a look at that too, what a BOE 1.0 legislative committee would look like. Thank you.
Okay, so,
In a 2.0 format.
so that, I think that's 4. Perhaps trying to include everyone here.
I think it's the same proposal. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Deputy Controller, but basically, it's your proposal in 2.0, and let's compare and contrast that to 1.0.
Yes.
So it would be showing a framework of a legislative work group committee under the same framework that we had prior to AB 102.
Correct, and how that can move forward, and we can addition, subtract, but that's what I'm looking for, bringing back committees in its
In that
entirety.
structure, okay. And then working backwards, it would be a legislative worker committee that Mr. Vasquez is suggesting that would not include agency staff, but it would include a chair and a vice chair, and kind of follow what's in your letter. Okay.
Now, clarify, would that be a standing committee? Or are we going to
You
delete
can
that?
call it committee, work group. I called it a DBA work group just to get away from the legal issue.
Let's
that
do work
was
group.
being raised.
Okay,
Work group, because we have agreement on that.
okay. So then a standing legislative work group.
Work group.
Okay, we
There you go.
scratch that. Okay.
So should we amend that motion that clarify the work group issue and that it's going to be reviewed and compared at our next meeting in July?
Legal is saying first, rescind your first motion. You can
Okay.
rescind it by, someone could remove their second,
Is that all right?
or withdraw your motion.
We were just talking about amending it, if anything.
Also, you want to keep your motion.
Keep it, yeah, let's move it forward. And I don't mind incorporating some of the suggestions that were tossed out here, so when we bring it, because we're basically looking to bring this thing back in July.
Okay, excuse me, sir, but your first motion was to move forward with the legislative work group.
Work group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think now we're talking about bringing it back in July and showing you various options and how it would look.
Correct.
I mean, I would love to see us move forward with this thing, the concept of the work group, but if there's not support for it, then we could, we'll amend it.
It's totally up to you guys. Sure.
Why don't we
And
amend?
that's how I'm throwing
Yeah,
back
let's
to
just
the board.
amend the motion.
What would you propose?
That it would, we'd recommend that the work group be reviewed with other options, and then we can do a second motion, or if you want
Well, no,
to, if you
I'm
want to
good with
include
that,
all
if you
three
wanna do that.
options in the motion.
I'm good with that, if you want to just add that to it.
Okay.
If I
That's
may, I'm sorry,
Yes,
Julia Himovitz
Julia,
on behalf of the
yeah.
legal department. So what I'm hearing are two very different, actually more than two different ideas moving down
Yes.
a path. Member Vasquez made a specific motion, Ms. Lieber seconded, and that has been sort of standing out there. Now, we have another proposal that is different than the current motion. My recommendation is either to withdraw this motion and plan, because it sounds like what you're asking is more of an exploration of options to analyze the proposal that you've put forward. And it sounds like you're also requesting analyzing a separate path. And so I understand that you want to move this forward with a motion, but it might be cleaner if there's just more, if we withdraw that first motion and the second, and we have a direction to the executive director to analyze this and bring it back in July,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
All right, yes, Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you. Just to get more into this. So my understanding of the motion is that we asked for the concept of a standing board work group to come back, and that we be presented with information about the charter and how a standing board work group would fit with the charter.
In the charter.
And that we would also have the information that has been presented to us here on the dais about the governance changes to be a part of that. And I think inherent in our discussion of the charter would potentially be what is the difference between a work group and a committee. And we've had mentions of, well, how do we go back to BOE 1.0, and I don't think that's a preferable thing to do, either here for us or for our reputation in the legislature. I just don't think that's a wise move, but
Can I
obviously I do
clarify?
very much support looking at our charter.
Yes, I just want to clarify, because I think, and I think the request was to, under the context of BOE 2.0, what would a standing committee look like?
I'm hesitant on standing. I'm just looking for a legislative committee.
Or legislative committee?
Yeah, correct, Mr. Good. All we're trying to do here is just do research, information gathering. It's been 6-7 years. And the proposal to look at it, can it still function the way we want it to? Because if we're only having a work group, then we're leaving certain parts of this agency out, we're leaving other people out. And it's the most unified way of going forward, especially if we're gonna be really, really honing in on legislation in the future. And from my understanding, Mr. Moon, you're not telling me that it's a violation of AB 102. And if it is, you can come back next month and tell us.
Yes, so if I could just ask a clarifying question. Is there something about the existing board member items that you feel is not meeting your needs in terms of wanting to look at particular legislation? Or is that what you're asking us to look at to see if there would be a difference between existing board member matter items and something like a 2.0 legislative committee.
Yes, a reformed 2.0 legislative committee.
Okay, and you're asking us also what reforms would be necessary.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So do we have clarity? I think we do. We're going to take.
Yes, I believe so. I think what's left is for you to make the motion and.
All right. So we have, can we repeat the motion for clarity?
So let me see, because there was a little bit of a change. So my original motion was that we would place this proposal in a motion for your consideration and discussion and to move this thing forward as a work group. And Vice Chair Lieber, I think, added that this would all come back to us in July for a final vote. Now, the Deputy Controller is, I think, asking for something a little bit different on the committee side. And maybe we should just handle that separately, and maybe do a second motion on that would have his be addressed by staff and then have them come back. So both of them would be coming back, and this way we can weigh out what makes sense legally, what fits within the governance, and then we'll make the final decision in July.
I think it all can be together. I think it all can be together as three options, three separate options that we can all take a look at under one vote personally.
Yep, we could do it whatever way is the board's pleasure.
So we can bring it back as one item in July.
Yes, as options, or we could split them up. It's
Oh,
really,
I was
it's
hearing from
really up to
staff
you.
that maybe to deal with, that we couldn't. So you're saying that we could include it? Or, in other words, we have one motion that's going to move forward. You're saying there's no need to have a separate motion to address the committees?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I was confusing. So if the motion is that you would like us to bring back 3 or 4 options that you had talked about, we can do that all as one. If the motion is to move the recommendations that you put forth in your letter and also do the analysis, then we should do those separately. And in fact, I think the first motion that says to put the legislative work group forward to go ahead and do that should probably be withdrawn so that the analysis can be presented to you and you can make a decision based on the entire analysis.
So can I take a stab at it?
Go ahead, go ahead.
So I'd like to make a motion that staff would review the board legislative work group as proposed by Member Vasquez, that we would review the proposal by Deputy Controller Emron, which would reflect a separate legislative committee similar to what was in place prior to AB 102, but would live within the restraints of AB 102. And that we would take a look at the charter to see what changes would have to be made to the charter in order to proceed with a standing work group.
Standing work group.
And then we would compare that to the changes just recently made on April 29th through the board governance policy as presented by Vice Chair Lieber. Yeah.
So I would envision staying with what we have as the third option, because we've already adopted the governance changes.
okay.
So they're not really an option unless we brought them back up and rejected them. Now,
True,
at this
that's
point,
true,
we've
yeah.
already voted on them.
Right.
That would be kind of
So
our foundational.
The third option could
Yeah.
be just staying with what we have.
Yeah, okay.
That would be the fourth option, correct?
Be the fourth if we're looking at the charter too, because we'd have the charter, we'd have your proposal and Tony's.
Well, I think the charter already exists in the same sense that our governance policies
okay.
exist.
If you're
So
gonna-
we would be looking at 3 options that would be informed by our charter and our governance policy. And the 3 options would be a board work group, that would be a standing board work group that would exist through the end of 2026. A standing committee, or sticking with our current board member matters.
Okay, and let me clarify, when you say standing committee, are you referencing legislative committee?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is that clear?
Yeah, so if I could take a stab.
Okay.
Yes,
See if you understand.
everybody else can.
So what I understand the motion to be is that what you would like brought back before you is analysis of not necessarily in this order, but one, a board legislative standing work group. And within that analysis, we would necessarily have to look at the charter to see what perhaps changes might be necessary or might be advisable. The second thing would be to review the legislative committee structure to see what changes would be necessary to make it compatible to BOE 2.0. And then finally, the third option is to consider the board member matters items with the recent governance policy changes and see what advantages or disadvantages that existing policy may have as compared to the other two potential options.
So moved? Or whoever wants to make the motion, but,
I'm good, I'll move it.
okay, so we have a motion.
So we'll drop.
Do I have a second?
First one,
Okay.
just incorporate this last one.
Yeah, I think the first one would needs to be withdrawn, and then the second one.
Okay,
I'll withdraw my second of the previous motion.
And then I'll move the second, the recommendation that we came up with, which gives you basically three options to come back with.
Yeah.
okay.
And
So,
you could go ahead and withdraw your.
And then I'll withdraw my original.
okay. So we have a new motion by Member Vasquez, seconded by Member Lieber. And hopefully there's clarity on that motion for staff. And why don't we certainly don't have any written comments. Do we have anybody in the audience? Okay, so let's go to the AT&T moderator. And is there anybody that wants to speak to this issue?
If you have any comments on item 7, please press 1, then 0. Again, if you have any comments on item 7, press 1, then 0. And there's no one in queue at this time.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Member Vasquez and Vice Chair Lieber have made a motion and a second. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
All righty. Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Hi.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. We got through that. All right, and is this the right time to take a break?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so we will take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 11:51.
Hello, my name is Lisa Thompson, the State Board of Equalization's Taxpayers' Rights Advocate. This year, our annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Everyone is invited to come before the elected members of the State Board of Equalization to have their voices heard. You can participate in person, by phone, or submit written comments before the hearing. We welcome comments, suggestions, or concerns about California's property tax system, the recent Advocates Annual Report, and the Alcoholic Beverage Tax Program. For more information, please visit www.boe.ca.gov/TRA. We look forward to your participation.
item 8 on the agenda. Modular homes for affordable housing after disasters, informational hearing proposal. And I'd just like to make a few comments on why I think we ought to hear this and dig into it and have a better understanding. We've had a number of wildfires in California that is too long to list, but we've certainly had some devastating ones in Oakland, Paradise, Napa, Malibu, Lake Tahoe, Palisades, and certainly there's many, many more. The fires are huge stories right now, and they're happening, and then the coverage moves on to another subject issue. But the actual stories of these fires stretch out for years or even decades as these disaster areas struggle to return to normal. One area where policymakers could help these communities rebuild is speed. Faster rebuilds can help put neighborhoods and cities back on their feet more quickly. Another is affordability. It may be that not everyone has the means to rebuild their home. And so it may be a different type of home that they're rebuilding, not the identical home that they had prior to the fire. And many of these situations are related to valuation, as we've discussed in another public hearing. And so that's why I'm interested in this idea of options for housing and modular homes as part of that rehabilitation process for fire-ravaged cities and towns. These homes can be mass-produced using labor that is far away from the damaged sites, meaning that the labor is stable when everybody's rushing in to rebuild and costs are skyrocketing. They can be assembled quickly and at a discount of conventional construction. And I've heard from 20 to 30% reduced cost. And so I think they could hold great promise here in California. And not just for disasters, not just for floods or wildfires or earthquakes, but we have a housing crisis in California. And if we could bring down the cost per unit so that people would have the American dream and make that dream a reality, and here in California, that would be great. And I know that Member Vasquez has been working on this issue for quite a while, so I spoke to him and I asked him if we could just wanted to get his input on another informational hearing that would just focus on this modular housing aspect and maybe other options for construction. I read an article about this, and it also talked about some of these 3D homes that are made out of concrete, which would be very helpful in fire situations. That's assuming the fires don't burn too hot too, because you can destroy the steel that's within that concrete too, and even break down the concrete structure. So I just wanted to bring this forward. Would love to see if we could put this on the agenda in the future, and would love to hear from Member Vasquez on this.
Thank you. And I just wanted to thank Chairman Gaines for bringing this issue to my attention and willing to collaborate on this item moving forward. We've had several informational hearings about challenges associated with disaster recovery and affordable housing. A persistent problem is that the construction of new housing units, even those intended to be affordable, are cost anywhere from $700,000 to $800,000 a unit. And that's just not sustainable financially for the developers as we're talking to these folks. And it's interesting, you mentioned, in the article that you shared with me, I don't know if you caught 60 Minutes this last Sunday, they talked about these 3D cement structures they were building, which saved huge, it was a huge savings because you're not wasting that much lumber when it's done 3D through this modular. So, and in this article that you shared with me, I also was interested, it was interesting to see that, you know, the cost savings is a big issue. And that's what I think is holding back a lot of these developers from getting involved with it. While I don't think it's the end all, I think it's definitely could be a contributing factor in helping out. And as I look moving forward, you know, and according to the county data on unincorporated areas damaged by these two recent fires, at least in my district, the Eaton and the Palisades fire, over 12,000 parcels were destroyed. Over 750 rebuilding applications were submitted to the county, and over 300 building plan reviews are in the process, and 24 building permits have been issued. The average turnaround is roughly 42 business days. As of mid-May, we have also seen reports of some houses being rebuilt in the Palisades and Altadena. Despite these efforts, the rebuilding process remains challenging and of all options should be considered to expedite and enable the recovery of these communities. In addition, I think the modular housing proves to be sustainable. There are likely some property tax implications that will require the board involvement. So with that, Member Gaines, I would like to propose that we hold an informational hearing possibly at our July 29th meeting, and get some testimony from several of the folks that are in this field of building these modular housing units. And I think we can squeeze it in, you know, as a 2-3 hour hearing on the July 29th. And I'll leave that up to you as you look at the agenda with the executive director to see if that's doable.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'd love to hear input from the board, and I'd love to hear from our executive director. Any other comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do plan to support this being a hearing. I think it's a vital topic for us to grapple with. When we're talking about affordable housing, sometimes we're talking about very large structures. And so I would like to suggest that we have a representative of the State Building Trades Council here to talk about it. One of the issues that we grappled with when I was in local office was if we didn't require a prevailing wage on affordable housing projects, were we creating the need for affordable housing projects by having contractors who were not providing a prevailing wage and experienced workers. And now that may be somewhat of an ameliorated issue because of fewer undocumented workers being available to work on projects. And so those contractors may come up with the same price that a prevailing wage contractor does simply because they aren't able to get labor. But I'd like to make sure that when we're talking about larger structures that we incorporate the building trades in the conversation, because they are the folks that that the state partners with in apprenticeship programs and getting people into being fully qualified to work on housing in California and to work on commercial buildings in California. But I think it's a very good topic and very topical right now, and so I do plan to support it. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Thank you. Other comments? All right.
Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Chair Gaines and Member Vasquez for bringing this forward. It's all part of the hands-on-deck approach to making sure that people are able to rebuild their homes, be able to live in safe and warm places to rest their head at night. The controller sits as chair of the Franchise Tax Board alongside Senator Gaines, and we've been seeing the ravage that's happened in the Los Angeles area. And the fact that the tax deadline's been extended, but people don't even have a home or anywhere. Their documents have been shredded, they've been burned, and it's really, really heartbreaking. And the fact is that as a state, we have to all pull together to make sure that people who have called California home for generations stay in California, and they all have a place to live. I also wanted to submit this article. It's from the Wall Street Journal. It was published on June 2nd, 2025. It's the rush to take modular homes mainstream in disaster-ravaged areas. I'll send it to the board clerk to distribute to the members, but it's a really, really good article that I read in the lead up to our meeting today. And just knowing that it's getting more and more attention, and I hope the board can continue to elevate that conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I believe that's the same article that I read, right? So that's great, and the fact that 60 Minutes is highlighting this issue too is good. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're okay with our executive director in terms of looking to add this onto our July 29th agenda.
Good morning still. Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Yes, we can accommodate this informational hearing. We can accommodate it in the morning. It'll be the first item on the agenda after the call to order and very brief
Awesome.
opening remarks.
Wonderful. Okay. All right, very good. Yeah, because I think we could knock it out in 2.5 hours, and yeah, so that would be great, and then we'll have plenty of time to do our business too. Yes.
It was going to be a little bit of a surprise, but in July as well, I've asked the CAL FIRE captain to come present to the board about wildfire season and how property owners can protect their lives in the home. So if we can fit that into the agenda, I told him maybe 20-minute presentation.
Yes.
But he's flexible. He'll come. The captain will come in the afternoon time if needed.
We actually had that tentative on the agenda as a placeholder to take place in the afternoon.
Okay.
After the afternoon lunch break, so that it'll be quite timely. We're here about building, and we're here about how to protect.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'll let him know. Thank you.
Yeah, good. That's great. Well, thank you. Appreciate that, members and executive director. So I guess we should have a motion, or do we have clarity? Okay, very good. Member
You want me to move
Vasquez?
the motion
Yeah, why
then, I
don't you-
guess? So, yeah, I would just move that we reserve 2 to 3 hour time period in the morning of the meeting of July 29th, 2025 for this informational hearing on modular housing and affordable housing options.
Right.
Because we'll include the building trades, of
Yes.
course, as part of
Yeah,
it.
that's fine. Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second that, yeah, but I'd just like to say, when we have multiple speakers, I hope we can figure 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, try to be judicious with our time.
Oh, yeah, we will, because we're looking at maybe 2.5 hours. So, yeah, we'll be careful with that, and thank you for,
Everybody out there is going to want to share with us everything they know, and we're not going to live that long.
well, we've got an agenda that'll have a timeline, so I think, we'll try to live by that best we can. Sometimes we ask a lot of questions, myself included,
Yes, right.
right? So,
I plead guilty.
all right, very good. So we have a motion, we have a second. No written comments, nobody in the audience. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line that would like to make a public comment regarding this item number 8 on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you have a comment for item number 8, please go ahead and press 1, then 0. And 1 moment, please. Again, for item number 8, please press 1, then 0. And we do have one person in queue, and that is line number 13. Please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Susie Wong, and I represent Remo Homes. We're a California Energy Commission EPIC awardee, a Lawrence Livermore Berkeley Lab awardee, and we're a California-based technology and prefabricated housing builder, founded 3 years ago. And we fundamentally aim to move society forward. Our company has tapped into the best minds to bring advanced technology-driven, resilient, and innovative housing solutions to California. And this is timely during the disasters in the wildfire areas in Los Angeles. And our company is possible in California because the best minds in the world are here in California. Our co-founders are lead scientists and engineers from SpaceX, from NASA. And we also have advisory support from Panasonic, Mitsubishi, National Renewable Energy Labs, Schneider Electronics. And we also have 3 patents pending. So our company continues to build on the progress we've gained in the previous years, resulting in a triple bottom line approach. Resilience plus jobs creation plus increased housing supply equals more inclusive growth. And it has been a great challenge navigating and getting to the market our prefabricated factory-built housing. We have the technology of resilient panels that have been developed by these scientists and engineers in the aerospace industry. And so we welcome any type of public informational hearing that will bring together public officials from the state, the local, any of the associations. We have already talked to the union, so we understand their practices moving forward, which is they're starting to train on automation as well. So we welcome and we support a public informational hearing. Thank you.
That's great. And that is Susie Wong, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chair.
And yeah, the name of your company?
Remo Homes, REMO Homes.
Okay, great, wonderful, thank you. Well, I appreciate your public comment on that, and I'd like to find out more about your entity, your business, and thank you for sharing what you did. And I'm assuming that you'll be available for the public hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. And if we need to reach out to you, what would be the best way to do so?
I can reach out to provide my contact information.
That'd be great if you could reach out
to Matt.
Yeah, that'd be
Matt
good.
Cox.
Yeah, Matt Cox or Yvette Stowers at the BOE. Either way, that's great. Thank you very much, Susie. Appreciate your comment. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
At this time, there are no further questions in queue.
Yes, thank you. Members, any questions or discussions? Okay, hearing none. Member Vasquez has made a motion to schedule an informational hearing for the morning of July 29th, 2025, with Deputy Controller Emron making the second. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Member Schaefer?
Member Schaefer.
Member Emron?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And we'll go back to Member Schaefer.
Member Schaefer?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to item number 9, 2025 County Assessor and Assessment Appeals Board Issues Board Workshop Follow-Up. And this item is being presented by Member Vasquez.
Thank you, Chair Gaines. This item is intended to follow up on the April 30th, 2025 work group meeting about assessors and the AAB administrative issues. As stated in my memo, there are 3 primary aims of this item. 1, approving the minutes. 2, scheduling the next work group hearing. And 3, discussing and getting a consensus on the report. First, let's move, if we could, I would like to request approval of the minutes provided as the attachment to the memo, if you all had a chance to take a look at that.
Okay, do we have a motion? And that would be to approve the minutes in attachment 1,
Yes,
right?
of April 30th.
Yes, thank you, April 30th. Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I guess I can second it.
Need a second, okay. All right, very good. And do we have any written comments? I don't think we do. Yeah, and I don't see anybody in the audience. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
And if you have a comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. There's no one in queue at this time.
All right, thank you, moderator. Deputy Controller Emron has made a motion to approve the work group minutes from April 29th, 2025, with Member Vasquez providing the second. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Excuse me, that was April 30th, just for the record.
Oh. Yeah, we got to, yeah, that's right. Correct the record to show April 30th of 2025. So we're approving the minutes for the work group on April 30th of 2025. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Yes. Chairman Gaines?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber? Aye. Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Member Schaefer?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, members. You know, that was required under our governance that we take care of that business first and foremost. With that, let me move on to the second item here, and that's, I would like to request that the board's approval for a second work group meeting for September 17th of 2025. As my memo lays out, a September work group should be based mainly on midterm and maybe a few long-term recommended solutions, exploring ways to enhance the AAB best practices, guidance, and information put out by the board in collaboration with the AABs. We can get into the particulars about the topics to be addressed at our next work group meeting. With that, let me just open it up if there's any questions or comments before I make a motion to move this forward.
Okay. So I just want to make sure there's clarification in my agenda here. So do we have 2 items? One was the approval of the minutes, and the second is the call for the September work group meeting?
Mr. Vasquez, in his report, had
Yes.
asked for 3.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not showing that.
Okay.
in my script, but we'll incorporate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, member.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Lieber.
And I know that the piece that I wanted to comment on is number 2. So I'm okay with, we've already voted on item number 1, and we're about to vote on item number 3, but I want to make sure that we go to item 2 because I had questions about attachment 2.
Okay, why don't we?
Do you want to go to that one next? Okay.
Yeah.
So the item 2 is the presentation of the draft work group report and initial recommendations. And under the minutes that we've approved, we would bring back the attachment 2 recommendations at today's meeting and then also at subsequent meetings. And I just wanted to make sure that at the last meeting where this was discussed, we wanted to get staff input into the attachment 2 recommendations. And so I wanted to, is it your intention that we would approve those today or that we would wait until September 17th?
You wait until September 7th, only because there wasn't consensus on some of those issues.
Okay.
That's why.
So I'd just like to make sure that we have the opportunity, and there's ample time between now and September 17th, I think, to get the staff input, because some of the initial recommendations, I think there's already a statute in place, or some would require a very large budget ask. And we're kind of after the budget process for this year. So I don't know if our executive director has comments about that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this item. On April 30th, Member Vasquez convened the board work group meeting on the 2025 County Assessors and Assessment Appeal Board issues. During the board work group presentation, presenters provided information on 4 major topics: assessment appeals process, key aspects of administrative burdens, property tax refund process, key aspects of administrative burdens, and incorporating technology for small, medium, and large-sized counties, and then finally, Prop 19 challenges. Thank you, Member Vasquez, for taking the leadership on this board work group. Thank you to those who made presentations before the board and provided recommended solutions on how to resolve the issues. Before the board today is a report on the board work group that summarized the presentations and the presenters' recommended solutions. In the report, or Mr. Vasquez's letter, it indicates that there was an agreement on some of those solutions. I have reviewed the report, and it's not clear to me on who's in agreement. Is it that some of the presenters said the same thing, but since it was a board work group and we were not in a board meeting, the board itself did not take a vote on any of the actions. So it is my understanding today is Mr. Vasquez will be asking the board to consider and possibly adopt 9 of those short-term recommendations, or ask the board to further review them. We were not asked to partner with Mr. Vasquez's team in reviewing the solutions, but I have taken the time to review them, but my entire team has not reviewed them. Of those 9 short-term ones, I do believe that 2 of them could be implemented in the short term. One being provide additional, update the AAB member training on Prop 19 and other specific topics. I believe that this could be done by inviting the AAB members to participate in the technical training that we provide to the assessor staff That's that training schedule that Mr. Young and his team discuss on a regular basis. And in some of the classes that they could just join in via Teams. And I believe that that would help them in resolving some of the AAB matters. We can also provide them with information on Prop 19. We have a very informative Prop 19 page. I know that most of the assessors have a page or they link to our page, but now that the AAB has their own association, we can make sure that they're tapping into our resources, and we will send them a letter if that's the desire of the board with all of our resource material. The other item that I think that is possible to implement, if I understand the concern, is item number 9 on the report. Find and develop and support legislation that address frequently occurring challenges that are creating administrative burdens for assessors. And I believe that's regarding Prop 19 and the presentation that Sacramento County provided regarding when property goes into trust or probate. And I believe that Sacramento County mentioned that, and a representative from CADA also mentioned it. And one item that if that's what you're talking about, there is a pending legislation, SB 284, that Mr. Angelo will speak on today, that the board might want to consider supporting. For the other 7 items, Ms. Lieber is absolutely correct. Some of them will require changes in budget, not only on BOE's budgets, but may impact the assessor's budgets or the county board of supervisors' budgets. So I would recommend that the board itself take a look at some of these items and decide if that's something that you would like to pursue. And maybe, if you want to pursue, maybe pick your top 3, so it's a little bit more manageable. Those are my comments. I'm available for any questions.
Yeah, Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you, and I appreciate those insights in addition to it. And I am fine with those things coming back on September 17th, but if there are relatively simple ones that could resolve a public policy need, or could help to bridge a communication that would be important for resolving a current dysfunction, I would be very open to seeing those before September 17th. I don't have a problem with any of the, I was looking mostly at the short-term recommendations table in attachment 2, and I don't have a problem with any of those things, but I think that structurally, there might be a problem with making a budget ask for this year or whatever. But any low-hanging fruit, even if it needs to be brought back to us and it's before a more extensive hearing on September 17th, then I would welcome hearing it earlier.
Well, what I was hoping to do is move the item in terms of having this hearing, or I guess you could call it the work group second meeting on the 17th, where we can get into the short, middle, and long term. And if you give me an opportunity, I'll run through what I had as short term. Some of these things might be able to get resolved before September 17th. These others, there wasn't really consensus, so I think we would have to raise those up in the September 17th meeting with all the stakeholders to see if we can come up with a consensus, especially for the midterm and the long-term items that we have here posted.
Yeah, and if I might, just for clarity's sake, because I don't have a problem with anything that's on the short term.
Okay.
But excuse me.
Need some water? Maybe take a little break there. Now, maybe I could just weigh in on the short-term actions. I'm assuming that those can be done quickly and that therefore we might have those resolved before the September 17th.
That was my goal.
Yes, okay.
But I mean, that, I would leave that up to staff on those. And I think the executive kind of mentioned some of
Well,
them.
I've identified 2 of the 9 that we can take care of immediately. But the other ones, one, I would need for this board to provide some direction if that's what you want to do.
Okay.
Can you
For an
identify
example, and I think just what Mr.
those
Vasquez
again?
was trying to get to, on the exhibit for the short term, the first one is explore options to allow for the sharing of AAB members on a temporary basis between counties.
Okay, so that is number 1, short-term action, assessment appeal delays, right? And then you go across to recommended solution.
And the recommended solution is to explore options to allow for sharing of AAB members
Yeah.
on a temporary basis between counties. Now, who will explore those options? It's not within our purview. And before whomever explore the options, my question is, this was a comment made by one presenter. So this is one of those where I don't see there was an agreement. So do we know that this is something that the AABs, the County Board of Supervisors, are looking for? Did the board work group staff do an analysis or consider existing law? We have existing law that provides for multi-jurisdiction assessment appeal boards. Is this existing law not working? Why is there a need to explore options for sharing AAB more members on a temporary basis? So there's some lack of, at least from my perspective, lack of understanding of the need of that. And I don't know if this body is asking myself to spend the resources to investigate this, or would this be something that the staff or the board work group would carry out, keeping in line with the charter or the board work group? The board work group convenes, and it is the board work group that does the heavy lifting with technical advice from agency. So this is just one example.
Sure.
What if you mentioned on the short term that was listed here, that 2 was in a problem of the 9, I think it's what you said, correct?
Yes, 2.
So why don't we at least get those 2 out of the way? And then the others that you mentioned that you have some concern about, roll those into our September 17th meeting as possibly midterm, or as possibly, midterm solutions as opposed to short-term, because it sounds like there's some concerns you have on some of these others.
Definitely, let's
comfortable
move
with that?
forward on the ones that I think that we can implement immediately.
Okay.
I took the time to number them, so it was number 3, update the AAB member training on Proposition 19 and other specific topics. My recommended solution is to encourage the AAB members to participate in the BOE technical training and to provide them information about Proposition 19, if that's the desire of the board.
That works for me.
I think I'm getting head nods.
Yeah, and then on the sharing of the AAB members on temporary basis between counties, I think we could provide clarity on the law, right, to each of the AABs and let them, they're gonna have to figure out their own coordination of counties. That doesn't fall under our purview.
So are you suggesting that,
I think we would provide information on how they could go about doing that, but
okay.
we're not acting as the conduit, are we?
Perhaps we can, if we do go with the September work group, we can report out that in lieu of trying to have sharing of AAB members, please note that existing law, starting with RT Section 1750, provides for multi-jurisdiction, and that could be a closeout instead of making a big formal, because only one presenter made that comment.
That's true.
Yeah, what do you think, Mr. Vasquez?
That works.
Yes, and Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you. I think I'm done coughing.
You bet.
A couple minutes here. I will start again soon. But so the two that are the low-hanging fruit would be the first one, exploring the options to allow for sharing of AAB members. And there is a succinct way of communicating that.
Okay, I will go ahead and call it a low-hanging fruit, and we'll communicate it out to our participants at the next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I don't think, unless you guys are asking me to send out a letter. But I think this is the easier way.
I like the easier way, but I wonder if it would come back to us at some point to say yes or no to something, or if there are things that can just be achieved very simply.
I think for the first one that we're talking about, exploring options, it will come back to the board because at the next work group, I imagine, member Mr. Vasquez, as the chair of that work group, would say, one suggestion was this sharing of resources. By the way, you have this ability through this statute. I think that's the easiest way for this one particular item. And I would gladly assist you and your team
That works,
on the language.
if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, the ones that I identified, update the AAB member training on technical training in Prop 19, I will prepare a letter inviting them to our technical training. I will send it out to the board members as a preview and provide you guys with an opportunity for any feedback.
And that, okay, so is that a letter that would go to the AAVs?
I think the easiest way to do it is to send it to their new association.
Okay,
And we have contact with them, and they express the desire to have the lines of communications open.
okay, could you do that with exploring options to allow sharing of AAV members? in the same
Absolutely,
letter?
that's a good point, because it came from them, so yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. And then you can bring it up also at the September meeting, excuse me.
Okay, so that's one,
And then
and that's three.
That's a BOE hosted training.
Yes, it's the technical training that we provide to the appraisal staff, the assessor staff,
Is that in person or virtual?
combination.
Got it, thank you.
Okay.
Actually, last question,
Yes.
that's gonna be over the summer?
The classes are ongoing, we do it on a fiscal year basis,
So July 1st is the new fiscal year?
and we're starting a new section.
Got it, okay,
Is it on fiscal or is it on the calendar? Yeah, it's on the fiscal.
thank you.
Wonderful, okay. Vice Chair Lieber?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question about the item under informational technology. Compile a comprehensive list of what counties accept e-filing and other related data. I know that we have a lot of folks coming forward frequently from the advocacy community who would like us to do a lot of research and clerical work for them. And sometimes it's when they already know the answers to it as well. And so I'm wondering if there's an outside organization that completing that task could be placed with. Because I know that we have given a lot of priorities to our professional staff and
I don't know about one organization. I appreciate the thought. I do know that's item number 6 on the list, and that also came from a single presenter. And we've heard this before from the same organization. And to do such a list from the agent's perspective would not be effective because assessors' technology is changing. So if we were to survey the assessors, they may or may not respond, but let's say we do survey the assessors and we say this particular county does not take electronic filing, therefore they don't have e-signature requirements. But in 2 weeks, it may change. They may have their technology up and running, but we have published something that is incorrect or outdated, and it may be a disservice to who's ever using that list.
Is that, could I weigh in? Because I'm just curious as to whether, couldn't we do that maybe on an annual basis? And then we could date, when you reached out, we could put a date on that particular date, and then you could have maybe a comment in that communication indicating that as of this date, these individual counties had e-filing or not.
We could do that if that's the desire of the board. But I will say this, because I did take some time and checked some counties. The counties tell you on their website whether or not they take electronic filing.
Okay. Yes, yeah, Vice Chair Lieber.
I'd be okay with letting that particular item slide, and because it was coming forward maybe from one advocate, and it is possible for them to have their staff develop that information, and I know that there's a lot of great interns that are part of the Capitol community that would feel good about going to 58 different websites and seeing what the situation is and creating a spreadsheet and all. So we might want to leave that to them, and then kind of be expressing more of our priorities and what we ask staff to do.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I did move to call for to set aside September 17th for the second day of the September board meeting for the Assessors AAB Issues Board Work Group.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we don't have any written comments, and I don't see anybody in the audience. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line would like to make a public comment regarding item 9 on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you want to make a public comment on item 9, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And there's no one in queue.
Great, thank you, moderator. Member Vasquez has made a motion to approve the September 17th AAB work group meeting with a second by Vice Chair Lieber. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Great, the motion passes. Thank you, members. Okay, now we're going to move on to item 10.
But just before you
Sure.
do that, let me
Yeah.
just, I just wanted to finish up, at least run through what I was looking at as the midterm and long-term. I mean, we don't have to make a decision, but these are things that'll come up on
Thank you.
September 17th.
Yes.
Just so you can kind of think about this moving forward. And it's basically, I wanted to get into the discussion of the work group report attached to the memo. It includes a detailed description of each speaker's testimony and 2 attachments that include summaries of the issues identified and the recommended solutions placed in 3 categories. And we kind of went into the short term already, but the midterm and the long term. And the short term, we kind of addressed already. So let me move into the midterm solutions, are those that require further discussion and stakeholders' input. The medium-term solutions are the agenda items I am proposing to discuss in more detail at the September work group meeting. The long-term solutions are those that either require formal processes like legislation or rulemaking, or collaboration with parties outside of the BOE. In terms of moving forward, my hope is that the board can reach a general consensus on the report and the tables so that I can distribute it to the participants and make it publicly available.
Yeah.
I also hope that the board can come to a general consensus on the categorization or wording of the solutions. I would like your input on this discussion so we can get it out publicly, if that's possible.
Absolutely. And would you like a motion for this, for accepting the
I'd appreciate it.
BWG report?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Do you want to make
I'll move
that
that.
motion? Okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's see, we've got a motion made by Member Vasquez and a second by Vice Chair Lieber. Thank you for that. And let's go ahead and see, there's no written comments, nobody in the audience. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line would like to make a public comment regarding item 9, and that would be the acceptance of the BWG report attachment 2.
Thank you. And if you have a comment on item 9, please press 1, then 0. And we have no one in queue.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Members, any questions or discussions on the BWG report attachment 2? It's very comprehensive. Did a great job, Member Vasquez. So we will then move forward, and Member Vasquez has made a motion to for the board to accept the BWG report attachment 2, and that has been seconded by Vice Chair Lieber. Mr. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you for clarifying that, Member
No, I
Vasquez.
didn't want you to overlook that.
Yeah, no,
'Cause I mean, it's all
absolutely.
going to come back on the 17th, but I wanted to make sure,
Yes.
so we can publicly get it out now.
Yeah, it wasn't clear that
Yeah,
there were 3
otherwise, yeah, we're
aspects
bound.
to
All right,
what you're
thanks.
requesting, so thank you. All right, we're now looking at item number 10, report on the board's May
I
28th,
think
2020.
it's about time for lunchtime for us, team here. We're well past our.
We kind of ran over it.
Excuse me.
We have, yeah. Okay, Vice Chair Lieber.
If I might, in the sense that this is not an action item, I think I can dispense with it very quickly, if that's a possibility. Because I do need to step out of the afternoon session and go to another meeting. So if it's okay with the board, I'll dispense with this one very quickly.
That's fine, let's do so.
I might.
Yeah.
Thank
great.
you.
Wonderful, thank you.
So members, at our last meeting, we heard testimony in our informational hearing on the status of survivors' recovery from California firestorm and consideration of the impact of algorithmically driven underinsurance. In all of our research on that, I really consider it a silent threat to California property owners in the sense that so few people understand what their current financial position is like. So in the attached report, we have coalesced some of the policy options that were brought up by our presenters. And I won't go through all of them here today, but I would encourage you to read through them. And the way that I would very broad brush characterize them was that it's transparency and safeguards for consumers and a call for accountability, not just from our insurers and our Department of Insurance, but also from the providers of the algorithmically driven information sources that are relied on by consumers as true and correct, but appear to be anything but that. The financial stakes for Californians could not be higher. And as we talk about the issues inherent in recovery for those individuals that were affected by the recent firestorms in Los Angeles, we know that there are victims of previous fires, even years ago, that have never been able to recover and have never been able to achieve anything like the shelter that they had. And so what I plan to take from the options that were brought up is look at what resolutions would be beneficial for Californians, which options are politically feasible within the context in which we work, and then work to invite legislation on these issues and to bring back to this board requests that would go to the Department of Insurance to provide additional information to consumers. Yeah, I'm very mindful from my own personal history that just because a person is not trained in matters such as the intricacies of insurance and what they're signing up for does not mean that they should be cut down like the financial harvest that is currently going on in terms of consumers. So I will be bringing back some options, both large and small. And one that is particularly meaningful to me would be to revise the insurance code to include a duty for insurance companies to warn policyholders of the impact of full replacement. And currently the insurance code sections 10103.4 really places the onus on consumers that do not have, by and large, the expertise to really know what their decision set is or should be. And again, I take our charge here on the Board of Equalization to safeguard the processes in this respect and to make sure that we're creating the conditions that are fair for everyone and that the tax basis of our counties is upheld and protected, and especially that individual Californians are not taken advantage of. And so there are things that we can do, and I will be bringing those forward to this board because the current status quo is a tattered safety net at best, and the impact that it has on individual Californians' lives is absolutely tragic. Their first victimization is the fire or other natural disaster that they go through, or simply the loss of their home, and the second is what happens to them afterwards. And few people realize that that road goes on for years and years, and what can happen to them in the longer term. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair, and I will be bringing back items if there are questions.
Yes,
Mr. Schaefer.
I want to say that the physical material that was distributed to us, I found very helpful at that meeting. I've kept it and read it and reread it. And also, I see we have a communication from David Schaefer, no relation. Is he expecting to speak to us today or not?
We'll let the chair take all the callers that we possibly have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your report. Thank you for the hearing. I think you raised a lot of issues that are challenges with making sure that people are insured properly, especially in disasters, because it just becomes a geometric issue, and you want to make sure people are treated fairly. Okay, so how do we address this issue? Do we have, we don't have anybody in the audience, but is there anybody on the line? And
Well, first of all, I just want to make sure everyone realized we did have a public comment on this item, and it was distributed to all the board members yesterday.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yes, and so that has been taken care of already, so we could go to the AT&T moderator.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thanks. If you do have a comment on this agenda, please press 1 then 0. Again, please press 1 then 0. We do have line 17. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is David Schaefer.
How are you, Mr. Schaefer?
Mr. Chairman, I'm doing great today. A little exhausted from all the effort I put into getting out the email to all the board members yesterday. And I could use a vacation in Hawaii or any place else after. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair Sally Lieber, and fellow board members. As you know, I had the opportunity to speak before you at the May 28th meeting from the unique perspective of a professional independent insurance agent to provide a solution to the underinsurance of homes in California. But I want to first ask for all of you for your forgiveness. Yesterday, when I emailed you my 29, collectively in one email, my 29-page bold proposal called Reforming Home Insurance in California, a Solution to Underinsurance, I realized after I hit the send button, and it was too late, that I should have emailed you individually, not together, because I was not aware, or I'd been aware of, but I was so exhausted, I forgot about this. There is the Vaguely Keen Act, in which I don't want to violate by having, cross communication with everyone at once. So I was under pressure from my loved one saying, David, aren't you finished with this yet? And she said, get it, just hit send. So I don't want to do anything to jeopardize this important, very important discussion. So with that in mind, I feel awful about sending my email, my proposal collectively to all of you at once. I promise to never do that again, and I ask for your forgiveness. So I want to go on to say that.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. And I think as long as we don't respond to that email, I think we're okay. But thanks for clarifying that up front.
Perfect. Thank you. And then moving forward, I hope to be able to communicate with you each individually, because I understand how it needs to happen. So that's how I'm going to prevent this from happening again. So now, as you know, I was asked to present my ideas on how to solve the underinsurance crisis in California. And when I asked the question, do we all want to solve the problem of underinsurance once and for all of you shook nodding your heads up and down. Yes, we do. So Professor Ken Klein, Amy Box, United Policyholders, and the great reporting from Susie Nielsen and Megan Muntz at the San Francisco Chronicle have thoroughly investigated and diagnosed the problem, which is the major flaws in the replacement cost estimators used by agents and insurance companies. And Amy Bach says the fundamental underinsurance problem occurs right when the home policy is purchased.
Time's expired.
Okay, it's purchased. I'll be almost. May I ask for you just for 2 more minutes, please?
If you could just wrap up quickly, we would appreciate that.
Okay, I will. So basically, my proposal was divided into 2 sections, the 10 parts that I think need to be reformed in California that will once and for all solve this problem. And then after that, part 2, my proposal goes into a much deeper dive as to why I stand behind those 10 items. To my knowledge, I don't think anyone else has yet submitted a comprehensive, if any, proposal on how to solve the underinsurance problem. So you can share it with anyone, and I look forward to continuing to work with you as collaboratively to solve this problem. And Ted, you especially, because you're an insurance agent, you have a better understanding than most of the people because of your background, like me, in insurance. So I look forward to talking with you individually as soon as that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Schaefer. Okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. AT&T moderator, do we have anybody else that is on the line?
At this time, there's no one else in queue.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, members. I think you would like to make some closing comments and
Certainly. And I appreciate Mr. David Schaefer and our own Mr. Schaefer, who's here on the dais with us, for providing their unique contributions. And David Schaefer has provided us with a very good set of recommendations to work from. And so we will be availing ourselves of his expertise, as well as tapping into some of the advocacy community who are not able to be with us here. And again, I appreciate the board hearing the issue. It's an issue that is so important to give a platform to, and to convey the message through all those that we touch that we are concerned about the everyday life of Californians and what happens to them, particularly when financial stakes are so high and it is a permanent life impact to them. So more to come on this issue. And so we'll be bringing items back to the board. Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Lieber. Okay, members, at this time, we agree we're going to take a 1-hour lunch break, and we will reconvene at 2:02.